Welcome to the PLA'S YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Hello and welcome to PLA'S YouTube channel, the Strategic Front Lines. Today we are going to discuss an issue which we have already discussed in the past with General Shankar, but today we'll go a little deeper and little differently to see as to what is the impact of this development, which has been an ongoing process from 2012 to 2014. And to discuss this, we have with us a very eminent military officer, active in the journalism sector as also in the academia, and also a scholar and close watcher of military affairs. Very warm welcome to you, General Harsha Kakar.
Thank you, Dushyant. A pleasure to be here always.
So what we are going to do is that I will basically show you the data, and this data will be essentially about what all has happened since 2012, the time frame from when Xi Jinping has taken over the reins of China. So going straight away, who are the stars in the museum? I have referred to them. I mean, these guys who are being purged. What is the broad overview of this? The exact numbers of purges are not very clear because these are based on disappearances, suicides, or sometimes in the open domain, they are being removed or they are being given some kind of a punishment. So based on all that, the estimated figures range between 50 to 80, but some prominent ones, I will show their names to you. Then the organizations which have been affected are multiple PLA branches: Central Military Commission, PLA Rocket Force, Ground Forces, Navy, Air Force, People's Armed Police, and Equipment Development Department. So you find that almost every department or every branch of the PLA has been affected by this waves, which keep coming in bits and pieces over a period of 10 to 12 years now, in fact 14 years now. So what is the context of this purging? First is that they say that it is due to corruption. Okay, faulty missile equipment in the rocket force. Disloyalty is the second big factor. Sometimes it is inefficiency of the appointments which are holding these things. Then ensuring the underlying factor which most people say, it is that C wants to ensure absolute control. If you look at the 23-25 wave, notably it hit the rocket force like a blast, and also the Fujian linked officers. In fact, a lot of C loyalists have also been purged. So but that is quite surprising. So he's not leaving anyone who's trying to, either indulge in corruption or indirectly, I would say, threatening his power base. So some purges only inferred from official disappearances, as I have told you. No news about them. Suddenly they get out of the news. They get out of the. Incidentally, I was interacting with an officer from the Indian Defence Forces, and he was referring to me that most of the people who are in the CCP or the PL color their hair, and the day they stop coloring their hair, that is the end of their. That's an indication that this fellow is out of the power base. Just to lighten up this entire which we are having today. CC is about people, but there is hardly any people consideration in C's functioning. This is something which we need to realize. Now, the next thing which I would like to show you is you can freeze this and go over it in detail. But what I want to highlight to you is that right from the vice chair and the chair in the CMC down to various sub departments of the military, everybody has been impacted by this purging. For example, the director political works, Neo Hua was the first one to get purged. Thereafter, he went on defense ministers. The shortest tenure was of one of the defense ministers who just spent, I think, 2 to 3 months, or 3 months or so, and he suddenly environment. So what I'm trying to say is that essentially rocket force, but also from the CMC. And what does the CMC mean? CMC means that The head of the CMC is Xi Jinping. So therefore, if he's removing or purging people from the CMC, that means they are a direct threat to Xi Jinping. Similarly, political works department. These are the commissars, etc., who are supposed to be on the commanders on the ground. Even they have been purged. So they are supposed to be the direct eyes and ears of the political hierarchy. But it seems that he doesn't trust anyone. If you look at it, these are the other names. If I have to go on, it will take a lot of time because we want the guest also to speak. What I would like you all to do is that freeze these slides and see for yourself. Navy, Air Force, military court, not even supposed to be educating have been spared by Xi Jinping. That's the level of control which he's trying to look out from by doing some kind of a self generation through various softwares which are there. Faction PLA purges, faction ridden CCP, untested military. What is to be the implication of this is what we are going to discuss. The impact on PLA, what is it going to be? The impact, the normal open superficial analysis I have done in this, which is basically that it is targeted against it is targeted against anybody who's threatening Xi's power in the hierarchy of the party, and also various factions. As you all know, that there are a number of factions within the CCP now trying to overthrow, some trying to be in favor of Xi Jinping. So it's a whole lot of complex muddle going around. You would have heard that even Xi Jinping has been missing for quite some time. And this has been happening quite regularly now. Earlier, about 4 or 5 months back, also there was some news that Xi Jinping was missing, that he had some health problem, and that he was only coming as on a very limited occasions into the public because of his health issues. All this is known to you, but what we will do today with General Kakar is that let's analyze as to how is it going to impact the war fighting as far as PLA is concerned along our Western theater, as also along our Taiwan, as also along their Taiwanese front, because in both these places they have the maximum concern. So over to you, Jan Kakkad, and in case you wish to refer to any of these slides, I'll put it up to you. Over to you.
Thank you, Dushyant. Dushyant, before we come down to analyzing the impact, we need to compare the way Xi is acting and the way Stalin acted. You see, both of them are going to be presidents for life. Xi has been nominated as president for life, and he knew it from the beginning when he came. His first few years was purging all those people who had been appointed by his predecessor. Stalin did the same.
That was the
Subsequently,
that was the initial bit.
Huh? Pardon?
That was the initial bit. The initial bit from the previous regimes. He started purging people whom he didn't trust.
Correct. Then what happened? Like Stalin did subsequently, he began purging those whom he used to purge others. So this was the second round of purging of Stalin. And then that is when the Russian armed forces underwent a whole lot of purges, because these were the people whom Stalin used to purge, those whom he initially wanted to get rid of and push his economic and other models. Now, what happened to the Russian army initially in the Second World War? The debacles were because of your leadership. Now, today, if you look, exactly what's happening in China, excuse me, any commander in the PLA, any commander in the PLA is spending more time and energy trying to convince Xi Jinping that I am very loyal to you. I am following what you're saying.
Yes.
His interest is in convincing the leadership so that he remains in the chair. What happens down the line? The interest on training, the interest on development, the interest on You're building capabilities, but to induct the capabilities into your strategy, operations, and tactical plans, you need the commanders on top focused. I came across a report that says today you are having untrained commanders at the top in PLA dealing with untrained forces, especially those who are coming in for 2 year, 10 years as the conscripts. So what you're having is a totally untrained army, and an army which is concerned about safeguarding its leadership from purges. Today, that is the fear. Second, also is an issue which comes up that Xi Jinping is indicating a sense of insecurity. When you remove your top notch, your hierarchy within, and people whom you have brought up, people whom you've selected, he appointed the defense minister for a few months, not one but two.
Yeah.
He appointed He Vidong, who's just been removed. No, they were all his picks. They were made he was made the Eastern Theatre commander by Xi, moved to his current appointment by Xi, and now purged, which means that there is a feeling of insecurity. Third, there is a channel running within the PLA, which is more of a secretive network which is reporting on anyone that they feel that needs to be handled. Today, you rub a man on the wrong side, he will use his channel and send the message that there is someone who is working against you. You are not giving the person a chance to speak. So what's happening is you are actually carrying out purges based on rumors, based on stories. Now you look at the impact on the morale of the forces. If the top hierarchy is not confident, if the top hierarchy has got its own concerns, you can then look at what's going to happen down the line.
You went off the air for a while, General Kakar.
Okay, so what I'm saying is if the top hierarchy is not confident, is it okay now?
Yeah, it's okay now.
So what I'm saying is if the top hierarchy is not confident, how do you expect the rest of the PLA to be working with confidence?
I think there is some technical problem with General Kakar's communications. So, what are you in, sir? Or can you hear me?
I can hear you very clearly. You're coming very clear.
Yes. Yeah. So go ahead, sir. I think your communication was getting a little disrupted.
Okay, no, what I'm saying is if the top leadership is not confident, is not capable of caring for down, not capable of planning on what they're supposed to be doing, but more concerned about protecting their necks, how do you expect an organization to be effective?
Absolutely. So, my question to you is that out of the various purges which have taken place, there are 2-3 purges which are very critical. First one is the rocket force purge. Now, you've been an artillery man and you have been basically dealing with these kind of things when you were in the service. Imagine nine of your top generals being purged from a rocket force, which is supposedly their arm of fight. How do you think it pitches now against India? Battle now with professional that it's the man behind the systems which are important. So, what is going to be the impact on the Indian front, and you could also correlate it to the Taiwanese front with these 9 of these purges taking place just simply in the rocket force itself?
See, Initially, there were talks that there was mismanagement or misuse of expenditure as far as the rocket force was concerned. But I think it goes far beyond that.
Yeah.
Possibly what Z wanted the rocket force to be capable of, what he possibly had in mind, has not happened. It is the
Okay.
anger that what he was looking at as the capability, and we've seen that now with the Pakis using the Chinese rockets. What happened? So you see, when
Yes.
you see the
Yes.
whole system as such, you realize that the force has not developed the capability that Z expected it to. Now you've got to remember, Z is a dictator.
Mhm.
His word is law. If he's got a thought process that this is what it should be and it doesn't reach, but if you're removing the entire hierarchy one after the other, it means that there are serious deficiencies. Are there deficiencies in capabilities? Is there a deficiency in the manufacture or in the design? I think we've got to consider the whole factor that there is something seriously wrong with the rocket force. To some extent, I had been questioning for a long time. Today, what you hear of Chinese capabilities, you see coming from Chinese media, which is more of the information warfare. It is very rare that you see this capability being employed in their exercises when you monitor their exercises. So, is this capability actually existing? The quality of the air defense is well known. The quality of their missiles is well known. How good is the quality of the rest of their equipment? Other than seeing them on
So,
videos,
like,
Chinese, we don't get any inputs.
so added question to you is that it appears that the opportunity of Sindoor was taken by the Chinese as some kind of testing of their weapon systems, especially the missiles, etc. So what I mean, having seen that these have failed miserably, they were not even able to penetrate our air defense systems, and some of them didn't even explode. I mean, you would have seen that pictures which came out in the environment. The villagers were actually playing around with it, not realizing that if it had exploded, they would have had a major casualty. So, do you think that Chinese are now actually more worried than the Pakistanis? Because if something happens, if this is going to be the state of the affair of their rocket force, and as you know, today's wars are more being fought as a drone missile combination initially, and then subsequently the ground forces get into the scene. So, what do you think the Chinese must be doing now with this kind of a outcome of Op Sindoor?
See, first thing we've got to remember, all Chinese products are copies of other countries. Whether it's a copy of the S-300, whether it's a copy of the S-400, or whether it's a copy of a US or a Russian aircraft. The fact we've got to note is a copy can never be as good as the original. That's a fact. When you make a copy, you can try as much as you want, it won't match the original. From the beginning, it is evident that Pakistan was played into by the Chinese to plan Pahalgam because they knew India is going to retaliate. They were pumped in with Chinese equipment and they were hoping that they'll be able to give us a lesson. It backfired. The lessons the Chinese are going to take back is how do you improve the equipment. But you've got to realize you're trying to improve a copy. It's a copy of a Western equipment or a Russian equipment. It is not your original design. Compare that to the BrahMos, which is our original design from the scratch. Now, when you have a copy and when you have an original design, there's a world of a difference. The second factor, Dushyant, is in India's case, we have always done very detailed testing of our equipment. There are people who've written against it in the media that India favors Western and it's testing Indian equipment with a lot of extra, pressure on it. But the fact is, it is this testing of the equipment, the insistence that you meet what has been laid down, which has actually given us the results today. If we were to take the model of what others would do and ignore the detailed testing, possibly will be in the same condition as the Chinese one. When one of our barrels burst,
True.
the ATAGs, we had
Yeah.
them redo the entire thing, underwent complete trials again until we were convinced. And if you remember, there were people writing in the media against it.
Yeah. So, so here I
And
have got an
the
anecdote to share. I've got
uh
an I got an anecdote to share. You see, a few days back, I was interacting with some people from other countries about the import of equipment which we are supposed to do, and these are big ticket equipment. And they were insisting, why are you taking so much of a delay? And we said that, look, our country is the only country which has such a wide variety of operating environment. I mean, you have minus 30 to plus 50 degrees is the kind of environment. So unless we test your equipment, whether it, I mean, you may be the world class military, or you may have the best of equipment, but unless we go through all these tests, and if you don't provide this for us to test it, I'm afraid we're not going to buy it. So what I'm trying to say is that the point which you mentioned, that unless we test first during peacetime, and of course we know that the only bloodied arm as far as operational experience is concerned is India. I mean, India has probably been the uh, most, I would say, operationally active army armed forces in the world. So this is just to add on to your point that the equipment of the Chinese does not seem to be that good in terms of quality. So therefore, do you see some more series of purges in the rocket force? I mean, that's the way I am
not
looking
only in
at
the
it,
rocket
or
force,
some kind of
you're,
a
not only in the rocket force, I would even find it happening to the scientific community now. Those who are involved in the design and
yes,
development of
yes,
equipment are also going to face a purge. And see, since you were talking
yeah,
about this incident, Dushyant, let me add another one. I was in the trials doing a school of RT ages back. We were conducting
hmm,
comparative trials of two radars, one from France, one from Germany. The teams
yeah,
told us, you give us a copy of the report, and those days we paid for the trials for the equipment. They said the entire cost is
mhm,
free. I said, why? The
okay,
answer was, with the copy of the trial report, the equipment can be sold anywhere in Asia because it's only
hmm.
India which does such detailed trials. That's our reputation. But in China, you're going
So
to
I
find
mean,
sitting across those involved in the radar development, those involved in the missile development, those who've accepted the equipment, and those who've introduced it into service in China. So you're going to find a large number more of purges, but coming slowly because China cannot declare that they are purging people for equipment, because every purge that happens, we link it up somewhere. When it happened with the rocket force, we've linked up. But you're going to find a lot more happening in the scientific and the air defense community. The two that have actually paid.
so one of the aims of the Chinese has been to build a world-class modern PLA. Right now, as part of this initiative, they want to do it well by 2035 or 2036. Around that time, they already have the world's largest navy. They are already second largest as far as the army is concerned, or the largest, in fact, as far as the army is concerned. And they are looking at modernizing their equipment profile, etc. Now, do you think that the because of this op Sindoor, they would push back their timelines, especially of their modernization, because they would now have to do, or they would be forced to do a post-mortem of all their modern equipment, because it's not only the rocket, it's the radars. Their radars have failed. I mean, they have been destroyed with impunity by us. Their radars have failed, their missiles have failed, their possibly command control system which comes along with these systems, or these weapon systems and equipment, that has also failed. So therefore, do you think that we've got now some breathing space for going on fast track as far as our preparations in the short term are concerned? or we will have to remain up and agile and quickly build up our capabilities? Your comments on that?
See, two things. Firstly, China is going to keep pushing for export. When you
Yeah.
export equipment, the money that flows subsidizes your research, subsidizes the cost of the equipment coming to your forces. That one they're going to push through. They definitely are going to go reviewing what they need, taking out lessons from Sindoor for their forces, not for what they export to others. As far as Pak and the others are concerned, they're proxies. What they give to Africa and to other nations is of no concern. It is
Yeah.
only what is going to be inducted into their forces that they're going to
Mhm.
be taking extra care.
Okay.
What they already have is going to move for export. So,
Okay.
where the faults are and what they're going to improve is only for what they need,
Okay.
not for others.
So, there is a talk in the media about you know about 30, 40 of these modern aircrafts. Essentially, they're talking of J-35 being being transferred to Pakistan. Uh, do you think that is something which is going to really upgrade the capabilities, or these are the equipment which the Chinese can well do without them, or they are not the high-end part of their development process? Because you must remember, J-20s have still not been given. It's the J-17, and now they're talking of J-35. Is it to further arm the Pakistanis, or is it just to test the J-35 in a second round of conflict if it happens something like what happened now in Off Sindoor? And
See, first thing,
why J-20s are being kept up their sleeves and not being sent to Pakistan?
firstly, Dushyant, where are we hearing the story of J-35 going to Pak? We're
I mean,
hearing
this is
it from the Pak media and Chinese media. We're
correct.
hearing it from there. It's more of
Yeah,
narrative building. The
correct.
fact is, the fact is that anything that they are going to upgrade to latest is going to remain with them. Even if they give it to Pak at discount, can Pak afford to buy it? Where is
Or
the
it will
money?
be or it will be minus the critical technologies.
See, and after all, they're not going to give it free. Pak, as it is, owes them $22 billion, which it's only delaying the return. And it is requesting China to keep pushing the loan back. The interest is mounting. Where is it going to procure? Where is it going to get the money? The loans that it gets, it can't spend a penny on it anywhere. China gives nothing free. How much more burden is it going to take? It is already realized CPEC is a failure. So now whatever it's going to give, it's going to take money. So where we are hearing it? We are hearing it from the Chinese and the Pakis. None of our intelligence sources have confirmed. Even that rumor of Paki pilots flying with the Chinese over Skardu and the rest of that area, that was also a
Mhm.
fake. There was nothing true about it. So basically, let's be clear. If you're not going to give the J-20, how are you going to give the J-35? If you're going to get J-35 to your country, you're going to discard your J-10s and your J-17s and your J-20. Even if you're going to give free, you're going to give the low-class models.
Correct.
Pak is only a
So,
proxy for China. And secondly, if the J-35 fails in combat, the entire Chinese myth is broken.
mhm.
What have they got left against the Taiwanese and against the Indians and the Americans? They're not going to risk that myth. Today, the myth of the PLA and its equipment has partially been smashed by India and Sindhu.
Okay.
Right?
So,
And
yeah.
expanding your navy, but you don't have the captains. You don't have your crew.
Mhm.
To expand systematically. You cannot suddenly produce 4 ships. Where are you going to get the staff to man it? Trained staff. That is
So,
why while it's a blue water navy, doesn't move much out of the area.
Yeah. So General Kakar, I'll come to the next issue of the purging. I'm just taking the debate out of the purging, what is coming out. The second thing is that CMC is being targeted very regularly. So how do you read this kind of a targeting, which is happening right from 2012? It's not that it is happening from very recent. And in the current case, their vice chair was also removed.
There
So,
are
so
reports that there have been 78
Dushyant.
purges in the CMC over the years. The fact
Mhm.
is, firstly, there is always a feeling of insecurity. See, for any dictator, where does this threat flow from? It flows from the army. That is the only force which is capable of overthrowing a dictator. You always get someone in at the major levels of people whom you have full trust on. At some stage, you start realizing that the man I've trusted is suddenly starting to get, display a little bit of independent streak. Out he goes.
Yeah.
This purging keeps the system in fear. Am I next? Am I next? So your only concern is to convince Z that, look, I'm your guy. I'll just lick your shoes and I'm going to do nothing else. Let me be. So therefore, as I've said from the beginning, professionalism goes down. The desperation to convince the leadership that I'm your man is what is high. So when we talk about, when we say that in a democracy, everyone is sort of only looking after the seniors, you would realize that in a dictatorship, it's even worse.
It's even worse.
Here, you have procedures to remove a guy. There, Z winks his eye and says, this guy goes, he goes. Nobody questions. The charges follow.
Absolutely.
So the
So,
insecurity in the leadership is very bad for an organization.
so, Jan Kakad, do you see that there is a move within the top hierarchy of sidelining C by the party, that is the CCP? Is there something like this brewing up now because of this country? And I believe there are 2, 3 factions which are trying to do the Princeling faction, Fujian faction. There are a number of these factions which are active within the CCP. Hu Juntao group is also very active. So, do you think that you are likely to see some implosion within the top hierarchy of? I mean, just to make a guess out of it. I know we can't be soothsayers, but what's your take on this kind of a development which is taking place behind, especially with Xi Jinping disappearing on and off? People say it is because of health reasons, but I don't think so. Health reason is the only reason for this.
See, for a person in his chair, there is always the fear of being removed. You are only surrounded by those whom you absolutely trust. That fear always remains. You only go where you're certain. There is no chance for Z ever in life to take an aircraft, go elsewhere and seek asylum. It doesn't work.
Nobody will give him.
Yunus can do it from Bangladesh, but Z can't do it from China.
He might
So
get it in Russia.
So for him, it is live and die there. I mean, like Syria guy could go down to Russia, but Z has got too much there. So with the bargain, he doesn't have a choice. He is only going to be there as long as he can. For him to continue to survive, since he's taken this call to be a leader for life, there is nothing else for him but to continue staying where he is till the end. And he's going to pay the cost at the end of the day. How long more? Nobody knows. At some stage,
cost may be implosion.
Yes, at some stage. You see, after all, you got to realize another thing within China. The moment there is an implosion in the hierarchy, there will be an uprising within the country because the people have been suppressed for too long.
Mm-hmm.
You can suppress them for some period of time. At some stage, what happened during COVID? When the implosion started taking place, Z just had to back down. When people started getting violent on the COVID restrictions, Xi just gave up and he let it go because he realized that any more suppression and the whole nation could implode. So these were signs that things can go wrong anytime.
Okay, so I come to my last question, and this is to do with the fact that we are seeing all this development taking place, but there is a very strong lobby or very strong group of subject matter experts who say that despite all these problems, despite the economic woes which the Chinese are facing, they are still growing at a 5% rate of growth, which is not actually very common with a country having a GDP of 17 trillion. Despite the fact that their aging population is rapidly increasing, there were some comments made in one of our broadcast of Gunner's short that the figures of 140 billion etc. are wrong. It's actually 1.28 or 1.20 billion is their population, and their GDP is also incorrectly uh, conveyed. But they say that despite all these factors, they still have a 15 to 16 trillion GDP country with a lot of manufacturing capacities available with them. So we need to be actually very conscious of this fact that the Chinese can actually hurt us. So therefore, we need to be prepared to deal with them either in the medium term or the short term. I won't say put it so much in the short term, but definitely in the medium term, we need to be in a span about 4 to 5 years. We need to be prepared for some kind of not a conflict, but some kind of altercation with China. So, do you think that we need to be on fast track as far as that possibility is concerned? And don't forget that these guys are good in gray zone, and in gray zone they can do a lot of actions against us, either through the northeastern part of our country or through the western part of our country. Such do you see that they are very good in proxy wars, as we are calling it. That's why in inciting Bangladesh as well. So your views on that?
See, firstly, the Chinese economy, there's a lot of talk that the economy is being fakely projected because compared to what's happening in the industry within, there are a number of people who've been talking about it from sources within China. So the economy is nowhere. The property bubble is bursting. The construction, they're demolishing literally cities because there's no one to come in. So the economy is not doing as expected. As far as the Chinese forces is concerned, with the number of exercises that have been observed of what the Chinese are doing, especially in Tibet, none of their exercises are for a major large-scale war. That will tell you that their intent is not for a major conflict. Gray zone, yes. Localized, yes. That is something we need to be prepared for, not 4 5 years hence, but I would say from tomorrow onwards.
Mm-hmm.
There's an opportunity it will exploit. Large scale conflict, you've not seen and you can't launch a large scale conflict unless your forces have been exercised, trained, and prepared for it. And there are no exercises thus far which actually indicate the Chinese intent on such an action. But localized up to a certain level, yes, it is a very regular feature. Gray zone, you're well aware. I think you'll be more aware than I am. It's ongoing even today. So that's something which will continue. But this is what I think we need to look at. And we need to concentrate our building of capabilities on the northern front to prevent these incidents of them exploiting and us looking at a quid pro.
Okay. My summing up, as you can say, is that what you are implying is that their rocket force is in definite need of a not an overhaul, but I would say an uh, entire replacement. Would be the correct word as far as their human elements are concerned. The modernization is not proceeding the way it should proceed. Their equipment are suspect. Their equipment are a suspect because you said that most of them are actually a copy of the originals, and copy
Correct.
of the original can only be a copy and not anything more than that. There is a kind of a political instability which is slowly but steadily brewing up inside China. But because of the nature of development and growth which has happened, especially in the manufacturing sector, the country, I mean, China has huge capacities as far as manufacturing goes. They have the deep pockets as of now, and they can actually influence the have-nots of the world to follow them or follow behind them. And I'm talking of those south countries, the countries of the south, which are uh, which are not as well developed as possible, and get them to bandwagon along with them. They do have the Chinese, Russian support, and they are trying to get this, axis going of North Korea, Russia, China, to some extent
Iran.
Iran,
Iran.
and also indirectly Turkey through indirect mechanizations. So they are as of now a threat, and we need to be prepared for it, not as of 2 3 years but as of tomorrow, to ensure that at least we are not found wanting in a limited kind of aggression which the Chinese may throw at us. If this be the overall scenario, then I suppose they would also not be that confident enough in Taiwan front, because
Equally.
you remember earlier they said that if there is a need, we can use force. But in the current Chinese national security white paper, which they have said, they are looking at assimilating it more by peaceful method. Although the operation, the hard option, they have not ruled it out, but it is on a slight bit of a back burner. So they are
Correct.
looking at more. They are looking at more through a negotiation and dialogue, etc. People to people connect to get Taiwan on their side. So if this is going to be the scenario which we are, I think we should be happy and claim that Op Sindoor at least has put the Chinese to think and put them behind by some amount of space which we can then exploit as an opportunity to develop our hard power or develop our military power, to ensure that in the future we are even better prepared. We are already prepared, but we are even better prepared to meet their challenges. So with that, we will take some questions. If you have any last minute concluding remarks over what I have
Nothing
said.
at all. I agree
Okay.
with you. The fact is, we have to be firstly prepared. We have we have gained a lot of confidence in dealing in Chinese equipment thanks to Sindhu. Thanks to the
Correct.
Pakis, we've actually gained. And that confidence that's come into us in countering the Chinese now is far more. You see, we always considered the PLA was something superior till Galwan.
Correct.
That was one that got smashed in Galwan. Yangtze was another example where you taught them that you guys are nothing.
Correct.
Their equipment quality got sorted out now in Sindhu. So actually, we are at a far, far more confident and a better level than we were earlier.
And I would also like to inform the audience that do not go by what is happening in the media. See, India is capable of standing on its own. It requires an international support, not for any kind of a physical support. It requires that international support for ensuring that in the global forums we are not painted negatively, and we are still free to carry out whatever action we have to carry out. That notwithstanding, while all this din is taking place about US not being on the same page as India is concerned, we are having a quad exercise in Hawaii. I mean, which nobody knows. Quietly, our forces are operating with the other three country forces. We are still having our talks on the joint production of the sixth generation aircraft with Japan. Uh, as far as the other mechanisms of the US are concerned about import of various defense equipment which deals are on, those are progressing as per schedule. So there is there is this, behind the scene actions are taking place as they were probably pre-Sindoor. You will find that it's a temporary kind of a halabula which is taking place, and after about 1.5 months or 2 months, you will find that everything's settling down in overall scheme of things favorable to India, both in terms of its own capabilities and also in terms of international validity. So, with that, we'll take the first question, sir. Although this is not related to kind of,
No,
but
no,
I want to, but I want to dispel this particular thing which is going on every time of Earth nuclear, etc. Please be informed. India has done nothing about nuclear. Just
we're
forget
not
about it.
concerned. We're not
We are
concerned about your
we're not
nuclear
concerned.
threats.
For all you know, they may have done something, accidentally done something stupid because of which these kind of things are happening. So, or it is just a simple natural incident which has occurred. So, leave it at that. I'll request, please do not give fire to these kind of things. Right. Then we go to next question is let me see what it is. India also used
Yeah,
heavy
वो
artillery
ठीक
targeting
ठीक है.
civilians. Sorry, this is an incorrect
There are no
thing.
civilians
India,
at all who were engaged,
yeah.
who were killed with nothing at all.
In fact, it is the other way around. We don't
We
have any
had
terror bases
civilians.
in. We don't have any terror bases in our country. It is the Pakistanis who try to fire indiscriminately. They hit a gurdwara. They hit a church. They have done everything wrong, which is supposed to be done wrong internationally or nationally or as per Geneva Convention or as per war. We were informing you at every stage that we have hit you. Don't escalate. If you escalate, we will hit you again. I mean, you can't have more clearer direction than this. And we were telling your DGMO about it. Anyway, so let's go to next question, which might be let's see what it he got. China finds itself in a mess primarily due to its friendship with the USA until just before Trump. Their friendship with AFPAC in the present shall result in total decline. Your views?
They
Well,
are now trying to, you see, recently the Pak foreign minister and the Afghan foreign minister were together in Beijing.
yeah,
They're
absolutely.
looking to expand the CPEC to Afghanistan. The reason is very simple. They're trying to keep Pak happy. They're trying to get the Baluchis to agree to the CPEC and to the exploitation of their mines. Nothing much is really going to happen. Afghanistan is not very keen on either side. So let's see how it goes. But there's a lot of mistrust between all the three, despite the proximity of China and Pak.
I'll take the next one. It says it's from Venki. Ask Jan Kakar, Jan Dushyant. Given the fact that accepting highlighting failure isn't part of Chinese culture, wouldn't this be the single biggest reason behind chinks in the armor? Your thoughts? I mean, this was something indirectly referred to by Jan Kakar, but you can clarify it even better now that the question has been asked.
See, the fact is that there has been a lot of failure and it's not going to be accepted. That's what I was saying. You're going to find a lot of purges in the scientific community, as also in the air defense leadership coming up now. There is going to be a concern because they've suddenly realized that their equipment is not what they projected. The whole world now knows the shortcomings.
This one, China is not obliged to sell good quality of weapon to Pakistan as they are not paying. Absolutely true.
Okay.
Absolutely true. But they are definitely testing their systems, and they will take home all these lessons and try to
Correct.
improve upon it to the best of their capability. So, therefore, we should be cognizant of that fact that they have made Pakistan as a guinea pig testing laboratory of China,
That's
which
it.
which is something which is to our advantage. Let them make Pakistan a guinea pig. Let them make them a testing laboratory, testing field. Good for us. Let's go to Gunner Shot has asked something. Gun, no, Gunner Shot Aka Jan PR Shankar Sire. The
Okay.
aging population is a problem in China. Absolutely true. This is
Definitely. Their demography is going down because you're still sticking on. I mean, though you've removed the single child now, but people don't want to go for more
It's
than
too
one.
late. It's too late. People themselves are not willing to go ahead with it. In
Correct.
fact, the direct impact of this is that they have gone in for 2 year conscription. Now
Correct.
imagine an army, armed forces of 2 year conscription trying to handle state of the art modern equipment. This is what is going to happen. Sometimes it will not explode, sometimes it will not run. By the time the opposing enemies supersonics
No,
and
and you're not
hypersonics.
interested. You see, when you come for a 2 year conscription and that also forced into it, you're not interested.
Yeah,
You've been brought in and you're looking for something after that.
yeah. Gunner Shot has given a clarification and absolutely correct, which even John Kakar mentioned. Most of their exercises are for routine firings, etc. So true. I mean, they have to be rigorously tested in a scenario, and the weapon systems have to be rigorously tested in the kind of environment they are going to fight. You must remember one thing, and here I'll like to. Then I'll ask John Kakar also. Himalayas are with us. Why don't we realize it? The plateau is with the Chinese, right? The plateau has a totally different configuration. Himalayas have a different configuration. And when you have to fight the Himalayas, it's the, the two-legged person who is going to dictate terms here. And let them come. What
Absolutely.
has happened to people? What has happened to people in Afghanistan? The Hindu Kush is controlled by the was controlled by the Taliban. Is what happened to them. So the same thing is going to happen to China if they try to do anything. It's no more 1962. We should be very, very clear about it. There is one more by man. Is Rohit Kiran. He's saying, if US is distracted by serious economic turmoil in coming years, what happens? Oh, okay. Uh, Sir, how do you see the transfer of hypersonic missiles by China to Pakistan? Can China really transfer its missiles to
No,
Pakistan given the notorious intention of
there is
Pakistan?
no way because there is no surety as to whom Pakistan will share the technology with. So
Yeah,
there
yeah,
is
you're
no
right.
way they will ever risk it.
Correct. Then there is the question about, uh, yeah, Amitesh Behra. Not only Chinese weapon also failed like F-16, and the weapon may be of Chinese American, but the user is Pakistani who may not know how to use it properly. I mean, this is
That
something which is
aside,
a
there is also a problem. Basically, it's not only the it's the man behind the gun, as we always say, but
Mhm.
then there are also controls on the equipment by the country which provides it to you. That also has an impact in its functioning.
Yeah, there is
US equipment has got controls.
yeah. So there is a question by if he's the same Ramki whom I know. Shankar sir, your views on Wangyang and Hunjutai coming back in CMC and CCP.
I
Uh,
doubt
Jan-
once you're out, you don't come back.
yeah,
It'll have
maybe
to be someone else.
their
Your people
protege,
may come back, but you can't.
yeah, their protege may come because they become very senior, and for
Correct.
them to come back at this stage, maybe they can come as mentors or something like that. Like Deng
But they
Xiaoping
can't.
had a position, where he continued mentoring once when his people were there inside the government. But that's all.
I think you must take just one out more, Dushyant. You're running out of time
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. So I am now just taking the last one. Yeah, I'll take this one. Right. This is the last one. Ask Hexet said C's called for PLA to be ready to take Taiwan by 2027. Is that just US rhetoric, or is China really seeking a Taiwan invasion on that timeline? If later, is timing due to economy?
See, China has been giving its own timelines. At times, he says 2047, the PLA should be a world class force. Initially, it was 2025. Now it's 2027. It's basically a continued threat. Keep Taiwan on the boil, continue the pressure, give Xi the power to control China. It's all a game that's running in. For them to take this step and possibly not succeed will be the biggest damage to China in history. So
Yeah.
that's not something they're going to risk. So it's not something. So that's the reason why they're all desperate to ensure it happens voluntarily or through political means.
Oh, okay. This is the last question which I want to take. With the Chinese and CCP, what you see is not what you get. Like shared, the preparation need to be made by ready by tomorrow. Other forces like Turkey, Azerbaijan may assist the Chinese. Pakistan X is absolutely true. I fully agree with Sundar, and I'm sure General Kakar would also agree.
Yes.
Uh, and Ramki. Dushyant sir, please don't be negative. I never thought I am negative. I was always saying that be prepared for the worst. See,
Yeah.
as a military planner, you should never ever underestimate anybody. And especially a power which is just your neighbor and has a history of always, doing things which you don't want him to do it. So it is all about being ready rather than being sorry. At no stage we should, I mean, I convey that feeling that I'm being negative about it. Absolutely not. In fact, this is an opportunity which I said that we have now been given an opportunity to reassess and go hell for lather for our national security preparedness in the defense. So if you have to add anything to this, I don't think we
I
conveyed
think
any negativity.
absolutely with you.
we,
Absolutely.
we were we, we were in fact gung ho that this is what is happening to the Chinese and the Pakistanis combined with one country without any support from anywhere. We did it on our own. We did it on our own. We did it independently. That is something which people should realize. With that, thank you very much, sir, and thank you for coming to this podcast. And
Total pleasure.
thanks to our lovely audience who had been in large number in this particular chat box. And we welcome you all to come again. Please keep watching Gunner Shot and Claws. We will give you the right kind of inputs on national security, devoid of jingoism, devoid of halabula. Thank you and Jai Hind, sir.
Jen, thanks a ton. Okay.
Bye, sir. Bye, sir.
Bye.
Bye. Proud.